We'll use the oats to hold the hills together until the alfalfa stand is established. Seeding rates, like Kevin said, depending on how good the ground is, we'll push, 20 to, we're talking 20 to 30 pounds next year. It really depends how many acres we're doing and really what the terrain's like. Tillage practices for the fertility, we're pulling an airway machine now. We're doing it at stand establishment. That's our tillage tool. And we're also using the airway in established stands to break up the hard pan. After a lot of this irrigation, we're seeing a lot of compaction. But yeah, soil sampling is huge. We see a lot of results. We do some grid sampling, but with our rented ground, we do a lot of just random samples. So that's kind of it. Some of our older stands, we've went in with some orchard grass for fertility management that kind of fills in the blanks where we're getting some weed pressure. That helped a lot. We're still trying to figure out a home for a lot of this orchard grass mix because it varied so much last year. We got to the end of the year, we had like 75% orchard grass and 25 alfalfa, and it's just something different we're not used to. So that's one of the routes we're going to take though.
I guess I want to echo what he said. Seedbed preparation. I think that makes a huge difference in stand establishment. There are a few years we kind of tried to scrimp or eliminate a pass here or there, and for the most part, I regretted that. I think we're always better off if we take the time to do the passes we need and get the seedbed right to start with. It just gets you, consistent seed depth, good seed to soil contact, and better stand right off the bat. Right at Cozad, we are mostly not irrigated, at least with the alfalfa. We're close enough that we do sub-irrigate. So for the most part, irrigation isn't the issue for managing alfalfa. We do have some pivots, and that's nice for establishment, and we use them for the corn. It is crucial where you don't have the pivot to do a good job watering the year before. We can sure go out and see where you didn't get the corn watered, next year you don't have any hay either. So you need to do a good job there to have the water reservoir refilled. Yeah, seed rates, we're trying to get 18 pounds the acre or something of seed. We're trying to use good seed. We're not using any traded seed at this point. We've got customers who are asking that we don't. Even beyond the organic customers, even some that are buying conventional have asked that we don't use the traded seed, so we're not. Yeah, like I said, fertility is big. We do have some saline areas which are probably the toughest to manage. We apply some gypsum. That's helped. We probably haven't got our problem solved there yet. Really, center pivot sprinkler makes a heck of a lot of difference on those rather than flood irrigation will improve those areas a lot. We've got a few small areas where we've got some pH is going down, which is unusual for us, that I may have to use some lime. It's not something that would be traditional that we do, but like I said, I do have a few spots that I'm looking like that might be something we've got to do. Phosphorus is probably the most important nutrient for us. We're trying to get lots of that from manure, both from my wife and other lots around. Basically, it seems like we're manure deficit county, despite the fact that we're one of the two biggest cattle feeding counties in the state. But we seem to find a home for it all, and looking for more. I have used some dried chicken litter that's come out of northeast Nebraska, and I used some composted chicken litter too as additional sources of phosphorus and nitrogen when we're doing the organic corn. Usually we try and get enough phosphorus there that we got some remaining for our alfalfa crops.
Okay, right out here.
Yep. Two questions. What's the normal
stand life, you guys look for in an alfalfa, and then also you're all growing as high a quality hay as you can. How many cuttings typically do you get in a year?
I guess I'd say we usually get probably averaging 6 years out of a stand. 5 if it gets kind of abused. If it gets lucky, it might make 7 or 8. We typically 4 cutting. I guess we got 4 off absolutely everything last year, and that was good. A lot of years we get 3 3/4 or something.
Yeah, the same. Our situation's a little different. We've got a lot of rented ground and 5-year leases, so that's generally it. We've got a stand next year that we'll be going on its 6th year, 7th year, and it's probably going to be a hay field again with $3 corn. Yeah, what else did we get?
What else did you ask?
Per year. 4 last year, and then also 5 on some. But that's the goal, is to get 4 off everything. So
I'd say our goal usually every year is to get 4 good quality cuttings. I've seen times where you could possibly get a 5th, but I just think that staying with a good quality 4 cuttings timely is better for your crop in the next year, not trying to go after that 5th one and leaving it bare for the winter. I think just 4 is good for us in our area. But what was the other part of the question?
How long does you usually?
Oh,
and then I've got one follow-up question for you.
you want to go for it right now?
Sure. So as we've seen fall dormancies change dramatically in the last 20 years, probably even in the last 10 years, from 2 or 3 fall dormant alfalfas that we planted 20 years ago to 4s and 5. Has that affected your cutting schedules, and how many cuttings?
Yeah, so your first question, I mean, our economics kind of depends on how long we're gonna leave that crop out there. Usually you'd like to go for 4 or 5 years before you rip up that crop, but like this year, like Jeff was saying, we've got stuff out there that's gone for 5, maybe 6, and even 7 years. We've got good areas that we're replanting, so we're trying to keep that cycle going on our farm and not having everything in the same cycle. So that depends a little bit of what we're gonna do on how long we leave that alfalfa out there for how many years. As for the dormancy, I've typically seen that if you can stay with a 3 or a 4 dormancy in our area, we'll get better quality out of that. But if with a 4 or 5 dormancy, you can usually get the crop up and going faster, and you can shade out the weeds faster, and that does account for something. I mean, if you're really going for good quality dairy hay, you don't want it to grow super fast. You want it to have a little bit of a cooler night. You want it to have a little bit of a slower growth so you can get that quality out of it. Or at the 4 or 5, sometimes in that July, you're getting it to grow so darn fast that you may not get the quality out of it. But that's just what we've seen on our farm.
yeah, to hit on the dormancy rating. I have to echo what he says again. You know, the fall dormancy 5, it seems like we're always racing it through the field, and you hit that July where we're high humid, and the cool nights, we're getting regrowth so fast. We're trying to get winters to dry out at the same time, and pretty soon they disappear about 3 days later into the regrowth. So yeah, some of our best hay is put up on a fall dormancy 4. You have a better chance. It doesn't grow as fast. And I guess another thing on genetics that we're watching is last year we were putting up hay into the end of October, first part of November, and coffee shop talk, everybody's worried about us putting up hay so late in the year, aren't you worried about it dying? And I think my dad said one day in the coffee shop, he finally told him, he said, I wish some of it would die, but it never does, so we just keep putting up hay.
Yeah, I guess I'd say maybe the higher fall dormancies, I'll allow the window to start harvest a little earlier in the spring. It doesn't seem like that's led to more cuttings or anything like that, just the way the weather seems to come around, that hasn't changed the way we operate that much. Other thing I was just going to throw out with stand life is I've got a rub kind of between me and my dad, but just kind of between a couple business aspects. We've been starting out most of our alfalfa as conventional alfalfa, and you go through a 3-year transition to bring it into the organic. We're getting to the point in our marketing where we're wanting to produce more and more organic, which kind of tells you extend that rotation out, get more years out of your alfalfa stand. And then my dad keeps looking at it, and the organic corn is also pretty profitable. So he's saying, shorten up that rotation so we can get back to organic corn faster. And we've got a rub between those two going on with our rotation.
So can you not establish a stand organically?
You can. You know, I've never had any luck in Nebraska trying to plant alfalfa in the spring without chemicals to keep the grass out. And obviously that kicks you out of your organic certification. Trying to establish in the fall, I've had some luck, although maybe less than I have in the spring. I've just tried less than in the spring. So I believe you're going to do it here. You'd want to fall seed it, and so you can get by without as much grass coming in your planting. So it is possible, and that's the way I'm thinking about moving to try and increase my organic production.
Okay, so that kind of touches on my next question, is how do you control weeds in your alfalfa? I mean, what works best?
I said we're not using any traded, so we're not using any Roundup. We're going in at establishment with the Treflan or the generics to keep the grasses from coming before the hay can get going. So what we tend to have then is annual weeds. But we go and cut those off, try and catch it wherever you can kill them, and before they take the hay. With the dehyde plant, we can kind of hide those. For lack of a better term, these guys can't. So you take those weeds and you grind them up, and then you maintain your fertility and you don't abuse your stand. And for the most part, that keeps the weeds out.
Yeah, I guess our biggest weed management tools are windrower. We just we try and stay on a schedule. If we got weed pressure, that means the stand's getting too old, there's too many gaps between the plants, so at that point it's time to tear it up. But we also don't use any genetics as far as Roundup traits or anything like that. We're all conventional seed. As far as spraying anything, we don't do a lot other than killing bugs or anything like that. I mean, that's about it.
I guess I'm the chemical user of the group. We use quite a bit of Roundup Ready seed. We spray for bugs first thing in the spring. We then go in and if the weeds are a high pressure, then we'll go in and spray some Roundup on it. We've also sprayed some of the other chemicals on our non-Roundup Ready varieties that we have. Probably just talk to your local agronomist or something for whatever chemicals would work best in your area. But we also sometimes get some pigweeds or something like that towards the fall, and if we haven't sprayed it before, or even if we have, we'll sometimes go in and spray it again on Roundup and try to take care of those. But if you don't have those options, then your stand, having a good quality stand with shading out those weeds, keeping the bare spots to a minimal, is probably one of your best options for keeping the weeds out. And then your other is just your windrower, going in and maybe taking that just a little bit early when the weeds aren't as big and killing them before they go to seed.
Do you notice any disadvantages to your Roundup Ready?
No, not really. So far we've had good luck with it. Our yield has still maintained to be there. I really can't say that our testing on our forage quality has gone down. For the most part, it's been a pretty good product for us. In the end user, we haven't gotten pushback from them either. So I'd say we're gonna stay with it.
Seems like I saw another hand. In the back.
Yeah, I just want to add that at our booth in the reception area where you came in, there is some weed control guides for conventional alfalfa. So if you're interested in conventional non-Roundup ready applications, stop by our booth and pick up a copy of that, that publication.
All right.
Bruce had a question.
Bruce?
I'd like the audience to answer a question for me, to
Okay.
get to know a little bit more about the folks that
Sure.
are here. Just raise your hands. How many of you raise alfalfa just as a cash crop and don't feed it to any livestock of your own?
Do you hear that? How many people raise it just for a cash crop and don't have any livestock? Okay.
How many are you raising alfalfa primarily for dairy livestock?
Primarily for dairy.
And if you're a cash grower and that's your primary market?
Okay.
How many for beef cattle? Okay,
A lot more. Okay.
okay, thanks.
I have a feeling that will come up in your session. Is that correct?
Nah, Dan's gonna have to work.
Oh, okay.
He's gonna have to change his talk right now.
Okay, question back there?
Question, I guess for the crowd too, if you had the opportunity to sell, if there was a dairy market out here that you could address, would you back off on your beef production and sell more dairy hay?
So if there was an opportunity to sell dairy, would you?
I'm just curious, because I mean, the room just lit up with beef. And I'm just wondering, you know, what direction everybody's thinking about going.
Would you?
Would you? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Might have been a bad
Few
question.
nods, yeah. No, I think so.
Where's the money at?
Yeah,
just
that's
it.
exactly right,
Yeah.
yeah. Whatever the market supports,
Say in
correct?
our area, you shoot for dairy, but you probably end up with beef a lot.
Yeah.
True. Okay. Anybody else have questions? Yep, right here.
Question, hybrid alfalfa, are any of you guys have hybrids?
Yes, we've used some of the hybrid. I feel like I'm reasonably happy with the results, where we're getting good quality out of it, and it does have fast regrowth. Like these guys said, that fast regrowth can bite you in the butt sometimes if the weather comes and gets you. It's growing up before you can get it off. I can't tell you that I can see a measurable difference between that and other top quality alfalfas in yield. But I maybe not have the greatest measurement system in the world. But yes, I use it. I don't have any complaints about it. I can't stand up here and be a cheerleader and tell you it's much better either. But I do think it's good.
Not a ton. I mean, we do have a little bit of hybrid, but it's not noticeable. I mean, I would say your conventionals, your Alfrex 360s and stuff like that, it's not a hybrid, right? Lloyd? No. And it's held up very well for us. So I would say that it's just as good as conventionals.
Right here?
Do you guys have any problems with potato leaf hoppers, and do you, how you manage them?
We call our local co-op. Yeah, we do have problems. I'd say more pressure in the last 2 years. And they vary so much. It's getting hard to distinguish what, if you're battling a leaf hopper or if it's, last spring we were trying to decide if we had winter kill or what was really going on. And finally we sprayed it, and apparently that's what it was because it fixed it. But it's a battle. And we're seeing a lot of difference in varieties and location. We've got some ground that's surrounded by pasture. I guess we convinced ourselves that was the problem last year. We were getting infestation from the pasture ground, and it's going to be a battle. It's really hard to, out of the 1,300 acres, I think we sprayed 200 of it. So I don't know, like Kevin said, I think they spray everything right away in the spring. We don't do that. It's just not one of our management practices, I guess.
general, no, we're not having that problem. Like I said, we were trying to hit organic. I think the last time we sprayed alfalfa for insects was 2002 or something. It was one of the drought years, and we did have things coming in and we had to do something. But in general, that's not been the issue for us.
Yeah, I think thresholds, I mean, we definitely have a leafhopper problem up in our areas from time to time. Last year it came in late, we didn't see it mature to a huge economic disaster for us, but yeah, I think you do got to watch your thresholds and then pick your times as to when you go in and spray full.
Anything else?
Ollie?
Yep. Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna ask a dumb question. You mentioned hybrid alfalfa a little bit ago. I know what hybrid seed coat is, but I don't know what hybrid alfalfa is.
Well, I cannot answer that question. Someone at the table
And we
back
can talk
might be.
later too.
Yeah, well, we've got a booth set out in the reception area. There's two of us from Alfrex here. Ron Miller from Kansas handles a lot of the Dairyland brand. And I'll get into a little bit more about who we are during lunch as far as Alfrex. But essentially we have two brands or two lines of seed. One's a hybrid line, which is Dairyland brand. And our conventional alfalfa is under the Alfrex brand. So there's some distinctions between the two. Hybrid alfalfa is bred differently. So the seed that's generated from that breeding program is a hybrid. And the definition of a hybrid in alfalfa is a little different than what you would be looking at in corn. Corn hybridity is in the high 90s as far as the percentage of hybridity. In alfalfa, to be a hybrid in alfalfa is about 75%. But to understand a little bit about alfalfa, in breeding, it's not A to B type thing. It's more of a tetraploid type. There's a lot of genes that go into the chromosomes go into the seed. So when you've got a hybrid alfalfa, you've got self seed, you've got hybrid seed, and you've got conventional seed, from bees. They're all pollinated by the same thing. In hybrid alfalfa, you have a male sterile and you've got a female plant that's planted in a proportion. In conventional alfalfa, it's whatever's out there. The bees pollinate everything. But with hybrid alfalfa, you plant a male sterile and you plant a female in a proportion. So there may be 50% of one, and there may be like 25% of another one to make that hybrid. But it's not the same hybrid as you're familiar with corn. But there is a distinction. There's a definite difference between hybrid alfalfa and conventional alfalfa. They both bring separate things to the table, and we've got a booth out there. Ron can help you answer questions, and then Dennis Schwarzkopf, one of our dealers in Colorado. That's just about all they sell as far as a line of alfalfa. So between the three of us, we can probably answer some questions.
Dennis is right here.
Yeah, they can.
And Ron is back there. Wave your hand, Ron.
Yeah, they can go over some of the products and things that fit this area as well. So.
Okay. All right. We're going to wrap up. Does anybody have another question? Yep.
I have one question. You'd mentioned the double crimpers. Obviously, the name of the game to get dairy hay up is to get it to dry as fast as possible. I'd be interested to know what else you're doing to get that hay to dry as fast as you can.
It really depends on the time of the year. We've tried a little bit of everything. We've spread out the windrow, tried to get more air to it. We've left the stand a little bit taller, tried to get more air underneath it. Really what we found so far, we've liked our double crimper with our BD rollers in it, so it crushes the stem completely. That to me has helped. We've had some people with the single crimper right next to us, and we're baling a day and a half faster than they are when they're just using a typical Chevron single crimper type of scenario. So we do like that. Other than that, obviously the more mature it is, the more moisture is going to be coming out of that. So I guess if you're really having problems with getting it up because of rain and you're watching it get more mature, maybe take some solace in the fact that you're going to get it to dry down just a little bit faster because that plant's already losing a little bit of its moisture. But other than that, I would say there's no real big win when it comes to drying down hay. If we can get the wind to blow, that's about the best we can do.
The Kansas people could send you some wind. We're from Southwest Kansas.
Do you guys use any preservatives too?
We do use a little bit of dry inoculant in some of our baling, but not for the most part, no. We find that there's no good answer for just getting the stem to get dry.
Kevin, I got one question more. Have you guys looked at baleage? I know it really brings a whole new difficulty and problem to transportation, but that seems to be catching on a little bit. Have you guys tried baleage? I
personally have not. The farm I work for, Art Anderson Farm, so Art's tried that a little bit before in the past, and I think he had bad luck because of his, or bad taste in his mouth because of his one experience. I think he wrapped a bunch of baleage, and then he got a big hailstorm and poked holes in all those bales. So it was not good timing for that. But I do think there is some, benefits to doing it that way, yes.
Anybody have anything else?
What was, we talked about when you fellas sow your seed, you prefer spring or fall?
Spring.
Spring.
Okay, so I got a question. Anybody have yield mapping that's working well for hay? No, okay.
There we go. We know that.
Yeah, where they at?
Okay, what else? Anything? One more. Okay.
You guys are on a schedule, you're gonna talk in 25 to 28 days. Is that on pivot, dry land, and then what do you look for? Do you go out with alfalfa? What are you looking for in those kind of pet for the higher quality?
We're watching for the buds. We'll walk fields, but yeah, we are on a cut schedule, or try to be.
I'm guessing you're going to be short.
But we'll start at one field and then boom, boom, boom every day. We try and cut a quarter every day. So as the first of the month hits, we're going. And when the first of the month hits again, you better have been started going again, otherwise you're already behind. But that's our main practice, is to stay, we're trying to stay at 28 days. And yeah, I guess just watch the plants. As it was getting hot last year, it was, the buds come on faster. We were actually seeing buds hit at 20 days, and it was just too late. But the hay was waist high, and there's not much you can do at that point. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, you watch for your buds and your bloom. You start seeing a little bit of purple out there, you're starting to lose quality every day.
Tons per acre irrigated, what do you shoot for?
We budget conservatively at 6, but I mean, if you good quality and good water and good fertility, yeah, you can hit 8-9 tons an acre if you got a good year, and it doesn't all get rained into the ground.
Okay, I think we are up against our time limits. I thank you guys for sitting up here and being on the hot seat and sharing your information with all of us. It's a good discussion, and we hope to continue that throughout the day. We're going to move on down now into the breakout session, so you have 2 choices, and those are on the other side of where we came in this morning, so plenty of room. Take your stuff with you. You can take some notes, and we'll be back. We'll do one session, take a break, and